You're aware that the President of Pakistan, the Prime Minister of Pakistan, and the Foreign Minister of Pakistan have issued separate messages with the significance that is attached to the day today. In his message, the Prime Minister has said that 8 million Kashmiris have been made prisoners in their home. Their communication with the outside world has been deliberately revoked to hide the scale of human rights violations being perpetrated by the Indian occupation forces. The extremist and expansionist Indian government is seeking to change the demographic structure of the region by turning its Muslim majority into a minority in blatant violations of relevant UNSC resolutions, international laws, particularly Fourth Geneva Convention. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to give floor to a former ambassador of Pakistan. He is one of the finest diplomats that Pakistan Foreign Service has ever produced. He has extensive experience of Pakistan-India relations as he remained Pakistan's High Commissioner in India during difficult times. These days, he is doing a current affairs program on a TV channel, much to the benefit of us all. I would request His Excellency Ambassador Mr. Abdul Basit Khan for his remarks. Sir.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Thank you very much, Excellencies Ambassador, and I'm grateful to you for giving me this opportunity to share my thoughts. As you very rightly pointed out in your introductory remarks, that on 5th of August, India has not only once again violated the relevant UN Security Council resolutions, but this time also its own constitution, Articles 3 and 68 of its constitution, because the union is, the center is not authorized to change the status of any state without the express consent of that state. In any case, Jammu and Kashmir has been the occupied land, so its status was different under Article 370. So India has no doubt violated its own constitution as well as the relevant UN resolutions. I do not want to get into details. Let me come to the point as to what Pakistan needs to do. I think the first challenge for Pakistan is to convince the world that the Kashmiri struggle has nothing to do with terrorism and violence. It's an absolutely legitimate struggle, which is authorized under UN Security Council resolutions, under the United Nations Charter, and is very much tesselate with the UNGA resolution of 3314 of 1974, which clearly defines that a struggle for self-determination against foreign occupation is legitimate. So this we need to, reach out to the world that the Kashmir struggle, because after 9/11, India has very deftly tried to portray the entire struggle as terrorism. Something happens in Uri, something happens in Pulwama, so it is immediately portrayed, projected as an act of terrorism. Whereas these are indigenous people who are fighting for their right to self-determination, and that is absolutely legitimate. Here I would like to quote, there is an international norm, international principle, which is called erga omnes, which means towards others or towards everyone. If it is my right to if it is my right to have freedom, that is not only inalienable, but it is also incumbent upon the international community, upon others, to help me in achieving my or in realizing my right. So this international principle is important, and we need to go to the international community and make them understand that it is all India propaganda about the Kashmiri struggle, and as you very rightly pointed out, that thousands and thousands of people have murdered in this struggle, and how the Kashmiris continue to suffer because of Indian occupation. Secondly, I would suggest that somehow we have not been able to convince the world to, as very rightly underlined by the previous speaker, His Excellency's Ambassador of Saudi Arabia, that the international community's overall response has not been that forthcoming. Whereas, they do show concerns about a possible escalation of tensions between Pakistan and India. They also show concerns about sometimes human rights issues in the occupied Jammu and Kashmir. But that, is not enough, though that is important because it is primarily a human rights issue. But at the same time, we need to push India towards resolving this issue in accordance with the aspirations of the people of Jammu and Kashmir. And for that to happen, I strongly feel that Pakistan, ought to have some kind of a well-lit, well thought out strategy with flexible, with flexibility in tactical terms. And that is somehow missing. And I have been suggesting now for almost 4 years that we do need a focal point when it comes to Jammu and Kashmir. And in this context, I still strongly believe that we do need a focal point in the form of a special envoy for Jammu and Kashmir, a person who can coordinate all these activities or activities related to Jammu and Kashmir, both in its internal and external dimensions. So this is what, I strongly feel. I mean, symbolism is important. And I totally agree with what Pakistan, has been trying to do. But symbolism without substance, without real efforts on the ground, does not have a long shelf life. Symbolism is important if it is done in tandem with something substantive. I hope that I understand that there is another round of informal consultations being held in New York of the United Nations Security Council. This time, I hope that consultations do not end without issuing a press statement or a presidential statement, because for such consultations to end without any record, in my view, becomes somewhat inconsequential. So I would very strongly suggest to my own government that in order to create awareness in the international community as to what is happening in the occupied Kashmir, it is absolutely imperative for us to put our own bring about some clarity as to what are our long-term objectives, because vague goals produce vague results. So we need to be very, very clear, because at the end of the day, our purpose is not to get restoration of Articles 370 or 35A. 35A. Our ultimate objective is that the people of Jammu and Kashmir ultimately have the right to self-determination. But my own feeling is that India is moving methodically. Today, Prime Minister Modi was in Ayodhya to inaugurate or to lay the foundation for building Ram Mandir at Ayodhya. So you look at, the way they deftly are trying to deflect the focus of their own people, of the international community, from Kashmir to the construction of Ram Mandir. So we need to be, move beyond these symbolic steps and try to come up with a solid strategy, in my view, which is not only for our domestic consumption, but it is about, giving hope to the people of Jammu and Kashmir, as well as creating international awareness. That, in my view, is important, because unless there is pressure from inside Jammu and Kashmir, occupied Jammu and Kashmir, as well as pressure from the international community, I doubt that Prime Minister Modi or this particular government, which has a different worldview about India, about Bharat Akhand, they will continue hurting the peace prospects in this region. So my own feeling is, after having served in India for more than 3 years, I have come to this conclusion, that if we work on two fronts, first is inside occupied Jammu and Kashmir, and then on the international front, I hope that we may be able to generate some pressure on this government in New Delhi. So let's hope that our collective work would yield some good results in the months ahead, because time is of the essence. India is trying its best to, 10 years, 20 years down the road, to change the demographic realities of the occupied Jammu and Kashmir. And that is really, the aspect which should be bothering all of us, because at the time of independence, the population of Muslims in Jammu and Kashmir was close to 88%. Now it has come down to 68%. So we also need, to focus on Jammu, where there is a Muslim population of close to 29%, as well as Ladakh. The Kargil in Ladakh is the Muslim majority division. So we need to, have a proper strategy, and I'm underlining again and again, because I do feel that we have still not been able to come up with something beyond creating good optics. So these are my humble suggestions, and I hope that the government in Islamabad is listening. Thank you very much once again. And here, if I may add, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Please go ahead, sir. Allow me, sir. Please go ahead.
No, I think I have taken a lot of time, so I would like to hear others, because, this is something which is very close to my heart. And I am the last High Commissioner which has the honor of meeting all the Kashmiri leaders, including Sayyid Gilani Sahab. And we are conferring Nishan-e-Pakistan on him, I think, on this Independence Day. My own feeling is that we need to, keep the hopes of Kashmiris alive somehow. And my fear is that we are not really, up to the task here. There is too much rhetoric, and rhetoric, when it becomes hoary, it becomes hortatory, then it loses its really relevance. I am not pessimistic about it, because so long as the people of occupied Jammu and Kashmir are ready to render sacrifices, and I can tell you that no matter how much India invests in occupied Kashmir, no matter how much separation they continue perpetuating on the people of Jammu and Kashmir, they can never win hearts and minds of the people of Jammu and Kashmir, because every household has suffered. There is a martyr in every household in occupied Kashmir. So no matter what Modi government does, at least in the valley, and I'm confident, and I can say it with full, with full confidence, that the people of Jammu and Kashmir will never accept the Indian occupation. But in order to, to reduce their sufferings and to come up with the proper trajectory for them, it is important that Pakistan steps up its efforts towards realizing their aspirations. So I'm sure the government must be thinking about it. And you have a very important role sitting in Riyadh, and you have been doing a tremendous job, and I commend you for that. And this webinar is part of that effort. So wish you all the best, and let's hope that things will get better for the occupied people of Jammu and Kashmir. And we will look for, because the settlement of Jammu and Kashmir is also in the interest of India. Because if India wants to realize its regional and global aspirations, it cannot do it without having harmony and peace in the region. If all the regional countries, including Nepal, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, China, Pakistan, all of us have problems with India, India needs to understand that where does it want to go from here. So it is also in the interest of India, because without regional cooperation, it can neither develop in a sustained manner, nor can it realize its regional and global aspirations. So we all depend on each other. So if India tries to be a bully in the region, I'm afraid it is not going to get its objectives realized. And this is what India also needs to understand, that so long as the Jammu and Kashmir dispute is there, it cannot have a sustained kind of economic development, nor can it have peace in the region. And if there is no peace in the region, India will continue to be an ambivalent power, so to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Excellency. Thank you for your very candid remarks. We're very honored by your presence. I would take a step forward, perhaps with your permission, to say here that it's not a human rights situation, but rather a human rights catastrophe that is taking place now in the occupied territory. It's enough to shake the world's conscience and think in terms of finding a permanent solution in the days ahead. Your suggestion to have a special envoy for Jammu and Kashmir is again very apt, very opportune, and I think that one should give it a very serious thought, particularly when we look at the region which is composed of two arch nuclear rivals. Thank you once again, Excellency. It's an honor to have you with us.